Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host. Really looking forward to this evening. The first part of the show is with James Fox. I love the guy's energy. He's the hardest, I would say, hands down, he's the hardest working person in the UFO world that's focused on the UFO topic. Always love talking to him. After that, Dean Alioto, who's also a filmmaker, and we got a lot to cover with him as well. The blog this week is a possible 1978 UFO abduction case from British Columbia by Charles Lear. So, a couple of things. We are in the audio podcast, we are running some commercials. So, you can skip all that. All you have to do is join Patreon for $2 or more a month. And the link is right on the website, podcastufo.com. And also, the audio blogs are going to be on there as well. So, anyway, I am so excited to bring in James. I'm not even going to blab anymore. James, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Martin.
Yeah, it's always fun having you on. And I posted a clip of you telling Michael Shermer exactly what you thought of his ideas, and that kind of went viral. A lot of people love that. That's really great. I mean, I could see you you could see you getting all antsy, and when he was talking. And like you couldn't take it any longer. And it's true. And let's just recap exactly what that was about. It's the thing you always hear a skeptic say, and that is they talk about the explainable UFO sightings and encounters.
Yeah, I mean, we're not interested in those. We know that already. You're just wasting my time. You're just taking up space. It's so frustrating. I've had it. And I sat there and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. And I was boiling over.
Yeah. Yep. And then you let him have it. It was great. And then, a lot of people said to me, well, what did Michael Shermer say to that? I mean, what was his response? Nothing. I watched the whole interview. He never had never said anything to that. Never had a rebuttal.
He knows. Yeah. Believe me, he knows. He's not an idiot.
Yeah. He's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
And actually, he's a nice guy. I actually had him on this show before.
Yeah.
And he was very, he was, he was polite, and he wasn't too offensive. I was all ready to go with him, and he knew he was on a UFO show, so he really behaved.
I've had interaction with him for at least 20 years. I want to say that I sent him a copy of Out of the Blue, and that would have been early 2000s, because I did a couple versions of Out of the Blue. I went back to the drawing board as one does, but I think I gave him an early copy of Out of the Blue, and he gave me a quote, and it was a very nice quote. I was shocked, and we've debated this topic on Larry King and different places. I mean, James McGaha is much worse. I don't know whatever happened to that guy, but James McGaha and I went at it one time. I think it might have been on Anderson Cooper, and he was just, it was so bad. He was talking about how pilots didn't know what they were talking about, and they were not, better observers, better qualified observers. Like, what are you talking about, you idiot?
Well, you're hiding your shirt. You can just barely see it, the phenomenon. But I love that movie. And it was on the Travel Channel the other night. And, the very beginning of that movie, when you're in that, actually, the bomber or whatever it is. And that guy
knows.
Oh, my God. And that guy talks about that encounter. And what an encounter that was. I mean, it was a perfectly shaped saucer flying over the field below them, which is really something. I mean, that's a great military encounter.
It's such a compelling encounter. It was 9 minutes in duration. It started at I want to say 10 to 12,000 feet of elevation, and it ends up at treetop level where they thought they were going to collide with this disc. And then the guy who's a World War II pilot and a colonel in the Air Force ends up being put as public spokes officer for Project Blue Book, 8-10 years later. I mean, talk about a good witness. And of course, what's the first thing he did when he became involved with Project Blue Book?
Did he?
He went to look for his sighting.
Oh, he did. Oh,
He did.
oh,
It was 19
wow. I didn't
this
know that.
document occurred in 1955, and Project Blue Book was in full swing, and they all gave detailed accounts. And he said that there were engineers from like Lockheed Martin, I think it was Boeing and Lockheed, and they were, these were very smart, trained observers, and they were just baffled. One of the things that Colonel Coleman said was that they were separated and debriefed and gave statements, and that their testimony all aligned perfectly. Like they all experienced exactly the same thing. They described the same thing. And so Colonel William Coleman, when he was part of Project Blue Book years later, he went to find his encounter, and guess what?
What?
It wasn't there. It wasn't Project Blue Book. And the reason being, the better the witness, the more qualified the eyewitness, the more compelling the encounter, the less likely the Air Force will ever want you to see it or hear about it, because those are the cases that they cannot explain. Those are the ones that we're interested in hearing about.
No, did they go somewhere else? Do you think?
Well, obviously, I mean, they didn't throw it away.
Yeah.
I
wonder
if there's footage involved, you could say that's going to go magic bye-bye as well.
Yeah.
I'm in touch with a colonel right now for the United States Air Force who was a fighter pilot and had this dramatic encounter in 1980. I mean, it's phenomenal. And he came forward anonymously recently. I think I posted it on my Twitter account, but he's very seriously contemplating coming fully forward. He shot gun cam footage of this object, and it was a very dramatic encounter. And of course, that footage was taken once again, never to be seen or heard of.
Yeah. What was his debriefing like? Do you know?
He said there was a guy in a dark suit in the room,
and
didn't say anything. And there was, and then he was asked never to talk about the incident.
Yeah.
And that the gun cam footage that he shot was taken. And I mean, honestly, he's still concerned to this day. I mean, what is that? 43 years later? It was in 1980. It's part of NATO.
You think I've said this before a number of times on the show, makes you wonder where all this footage is, this great footage going all the way back to, what Gordon saw there on the planes and that big, was it Big Sur? I'm trying to think of that.
Yeah. Jacobs, Robert Jacobs, Vandenberg Air Force Base, circa 1965.
Yeah. And there's so many like that. Yeah.
That guy is so believable. There's not a iota of doubt that gentleman was telling me the truth. Yeah. I mean, you heard he's so believable.
Right. Yeah. So it makes you wonder where all that goes. Well, I have to ask you, James, that I'm getting email, and I know you are too. Do you have any opinion on what might be going on in Peru? It's such a crazy story.
I don't. I have been getting so many requests, so many questions regarding that incident. I did reach out to my counterpart, Marco Leal, in Brazil.
Yeah.
He seems to think there's some substance to it. He wants to go, and he very well might go. I cannot speak intelligently about it because I simply don't have any valid any more than what the rest of us have at this point.
I know you've been working really, really hard, because I almost had to threaten your life to get you on this show.
Yeah. I'm shooting and editing a new movie, so I've 80% of it shot. I'm dealing with some government insiders, some intel folks, insiders that are going through the process of the whistleblower process that David Grush went through, that want to come forward. So I'm trying to work that angle, trying to look into the David Grush accounts and meet with representatives and, schedule shoots.
Yeah.
See what I come up with at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for that. I know the last one, Moment of Contact, you put that thing together really, really fast for one of these type of movies, and that did really well.
Well, I did, but keep in mind that we spent the better part of 12 years on and off investigating that case, and I went back and forth 5 times to Brazil.
Oh, I didn't realize, but when you got all the footage done, you really put that thing together fast.
We cranked.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. I'm trying to do the same thing with this one. In fact, I wanted this one to be very, like, I want it to be the most beautiful documentary I've ever created. So I really I hired really seasoned photographers. I mean, the same gentleman that I've had DP David West, but then he brought in another person who does these beautiful I want to call them time lapse. They're like motion time lapse where they set up cameras on tracks. We got permits all across Washington D.C. I mean, if you've ever seen the series House of Cards on Netflix,
Oh yeah.
like that kind of photography. I just wanted it because the epicenter of a lot of what's happening for this push for transparency and what's going on is happening in Washington D.C. right now, and it's phenomenal what's happening behind the scenes. And I'm just getting a tiny taste of it. I can only imagine how much more is going on. And so I wanted the heart of the film to kind of, revolve around DC. So we went there for 5 weeks, almost 5 weeks, and we shot. We're going back in a couple of weeks, and we shot the most beautiful B-roll I've ever seen of Washington D.C. I mean, we got permits, we set up cameras on tracks. It's just stunning.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
I'm telling you, man. And then I got a composer in London who's doing the music, and I mean, we're really going all out. I want this to be I'm trying to make it the most beautiful doc I've ever made. I'm trying.
Wow. I remember you saying that about the phenomenon, and you did. That was your, that was a beautiful film. All your work is great. I love all your work. I've told many people over the years, even when I first started, that out of the blue, I know what I saw. All those movies you did way back then, and you said no, you didn't like those. You wanted to do better, and you did that with the phenomenon. And I know you had a lot of years in that. I remember when you first. I remember the first title and the first few struggles you had in that. The 701, I believe it was called, or something like that. And
one thing I've learned is I work best solo. And what I mean by that, I had some opportunities when the phenomenon came out to do some stuff with Netflix and things, but then I would have had executives breathing over my neck. When I collaborate with too many people, I don't know. I can't. I feel restrained.
mm-hmm.
I'm much better. Got my little edit studio behind us.
Yeah.
I got a core crew that I've been working with for quite some time. One of which is this gentleman Boris, and he worked on my first documentary with me back when I was in my early 20s, and we're still working together today. And we just are a good team. We get along. We always deliver, and we do it on a smaller budget in an independent spot like this. Subcontract out work when I need it. If I need some help with like writing or something, I'll bring somebody in.
Yeah.
But that's it. I want to do it completely independently. I don't want any executives breathing over my neck or that kind of thing. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's all I'm going to do.
And I know my first friend, Chris O'Brien, helps you out now and then.
He's a wonderful human being. Love him.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. He's a vagabond. He's all over the place. I don't know. I don't know where he is right now. But yeah, he's a great guy.
So smart. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's very intelligent, and he's got some great stories too. And that's, getting back to, I heard you mention Grush. I mean, I just want to touch on this negative thing real quickly and then get out of it. It's just my opinion anyway, and that's the Intercept Ken Klippenstein, however you pronounce his name. I can't see. I've been trying to give an open mind to his article, but I can't see any other purpose for that than a negative spin to David Grush. I don't know what else it could be. It is his right as a journalist to do what he did, but but it kind of points to the evidence that he got to know where to look, because the names would be redacted, so he knew where to look and when to look for it.
So here's what I do know, and I've heard this from two very credible sources, that the writers of the last two smear campaigns were both tipped off where to look. And that came from inside the intel folks. That's what I was told. That clearly that's what happened. Like, hey, you might want to look over here. I mean, I'd say to those folks, we should be putting all of our energy into validating the claims that are made by this intelligence officer, David Grush. He was willing to testify under oath. He's put everything on the line, his entire reputation, his life. The media, particularly the mainstream media, should be really asking questions. This guy handed us on a silver platter probably one of the biggest stories in the history of mankind. And, instead of putting the energy and resources into figuring out the validity of the claims he made, there seems like they're more interested in smearing the poor guy. So I'd say focus on, turning up more witnesses, more documents, more specifics, and the best we can. That's what we should all be focusing on right now.
Yeah, I'm concerned. Well, I wanted to show this right here. This is I did get to meet him, and it was kind of funny. I was filming while I was shaking his hand. Someone took a picture.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but anyway, I feel really concerned now. I have a major witness coming up, a military witness coming up on September 5th, and the ones you are speaking of as well. And I'm almost afraid that they're going to see how this is being treated and say, forget it, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, but overall, he's weathering the storm quite nicely. And I know people that are in the process of getting the whistleblower protection stuff. I mean, it's a process they have to go through. I think it's with the ICIG. It might be the administrator or the office of Thomas Monheim, I believe. But in any case, they're starting that process, and it's I understand it's like maybe a week-long process. I'll find out more, but
no, I thought the whistleblower situation had a deadline of like last April or something. Has this been extended, which I think it should be? Are you aware of how that works?
Yeah. No, all I know is that there's a process that needs to before they come out, and that they can't release, super classified data. There's parameters on what they can talk about, and there's a process to get to that. And there are other people that are firsthand witnesses that are going through that process. I am familiar with one of them quite well, and so that's I think it's imminent.
So, I mean, that would be, people would ask me, I'm sure they asked you the same question, what do you hope happens with all this, the movement forward, the hearing and all that? And my answer has been that the firsthand witnesses actually do come forward. And, how could that be denied if they do?
Well, I mean, and a firsthand witness is going to come forward, and guess what? They're going to say, oh, yeah, well, let's just talk. Where's the craft? Where are the bodies? This is baloney. Just more claims without any evidence. That's what they're going to say, and inevitably. And
then, but all the evidence would be classified, you would assume.
Look, my response is this, because I get criticized a lot with the Varginha, like, oh, yeah, it's just more talking heads, more. It's like, well, yes. But people are coming forward in droves right now on the Varginha case. There are doctors coming forward, forensic pathologists coming forward, talking about having seen the body or footage of the creature, and we're talking about it, and we're making a concerted effort to find the videotaped evidence that we know exists. Yeah, we're talking about it. Would we like to get our hands on it? Of course we would. But how are you going to talk about something you don't know exists? You need to learn about the fact that it exists. It's like the satellite imagery, right? It's like we're getting that dialogue going, and people are starting to learn, like, okay, we know through some pretty credible people that satellite data does exist, and it's very compelling, right? Yes, we haven't gotten our hands on it yet. I've actually had people contact me. This is kind of funny. I'm trying to think how much I can say here, but I've had individuals that claim to have had the clearances and know exactly where it is, So they've been feeding that information to me, and I've been feeding it to people on the inside. Like, this is where it is, and it's aligning. Like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Oh yes, it would be on that database. Oh, thank you for the, now, whether or not those people that I'm feeding it to through this will be able to release it to the general public, I don't know. I hope so, and I certainly hope that by them, these individuals with the clearances that they can get their hands on it. I mean, the more people talking about it, the more, hopefully likely that something will either leak out, or like it did with the Pentagon with the videos of the Tic Tac, or enough pressure putting on DOD where they have to eventually release some stuff. I mean, I get frustrated too for the audience that are, that criticize people that are just talking about evidence and not producing it, but we got to start somewhere.
And what do you think about, how in Virginia, it seemed like the Americans showed up there? This seems like a repeating situation that I've heard a couple of other different times where, people show up and, something, how they knew about it and all that. I mean, it's really bizarre how these things seem to happen. And, there's accounts of people showing up on a site, with no insignia and black camo and, and all that. And like taking over the project, that type of thing.
I never believed in any of this. I heard accounts for so long about these men in suits that show up. They're from some unknown government, U.S. government agency. I avoided putting them in my films. I heard them back in the 90s when I was investigating the Phoenix Lights case, or the massive UFO flyover on March 13th, 1997. And I just kept hearing them. And I think the final straw for me was when I was in Virginia, South America, Brazil, and the mother of the two daughters mentioned these men in suits. And that was like, okay, I really believe this woman. And these men were intimidating. They were intimidating, very intimidating. And they were somewhat, there was an air of mystery, almost like, I'm not going to say supernatural, but they had that air about them, that they just seemed, there was something about them, according to the eyewitness testimony from people I spoke to, that there was just something menacing. There was something odd. You know what I mean? Something, I don't want to use the word otherworldly, but odd. There's something,
what I find the oddest part of it, or one of the oddest parts of it, is all of a sudden they show up.
Well, I remember
show up.
I remember the woman, the mother, said she ran. And first of all, she was very intimidated when they arrived. She thought it was one of the fellow researchers, like Uberajada or Peccaccini, showing up just to talk with her, and it was these men in suits, and she was scared. I mean, they were very forceful, trying to get her to take this deal, or going to get her daughters to go on a TV show and say that the daughters were lying and all this stuff, and which she refused to do. And but when they left, and she threatened to call the police, and that's when they finally left, she ran after them. She got this long corridor outside with a metal gate, and she like ran up the corridor after the gate closed, and she ran out there to see, and they were just gone. There was just no sign of them in any direction. She was kind of, that was odd. And the way they kind of show up, and the way the way they seem to be omnipresent with really good cases. And it's just, I don't know, man. There's something very strange about them. I don't know. Or maybe they're just trained to be that way. I really don't know. Just something odd.
Yeah. And then, on site, the camo dudes, as they call them, from what I understand, in black camo, I've heard that in two different situations, and who the heck would they be, and what type of like a recovery team, that type of situation.
Well, I honestly, and I was investigating Virginia. First of all, I didn't believe Virginia for the longest time, right? I didn't even want to waste my time with it. And I would say at least 10 years or 11 years. So weird to think that I was making documentaries on UFOs, and I refused to look into this case. And then what caught me by surprise was while we were the last time we were filming there, which would have been about my guess would be about 2 years ago. There was I wish I could remember his name, Marco something. He was everybody like part of the fire department or police department or flight safety. It's all connected to the government. So there's like the federal police, the federal like so the military is connected to the fire department, the military is connected to the police department, the military is connected to the flight control where they look at the radar and they manage all incoming flights and everything.
Yeah.
That individual came forward about 2 years ago while we were in Brazil. We tried to get an interview with him, but it's he did it on a podcast, and he said that you can go look for it. He saw USAF, he kept saying, which is USAF, United States Air Force flight that came in and it didn't have authorization, and it landed in, and that he was like, this plane doesn't have authorization. You need authorization. And then one of the higher ups came into the room. This is all videotaped. He's talked about this. Came in and said, let the plane land. And it landed in Campinas right around January 20th or 21st of 1996. So you have an unauthorized United States Air Force airplane that lands in Campinas right at the time where we have, on-camera testimony from people claiming to have driven the being or beings to Campinas right around that time. High level of, that's, it's pretty compelling evidence. Somebody sent me, and of course I just got barraged with Twitter and email. Oh my gosh. When I went on Joe Rogan, I could barely keep up with it. I mean, it was a full-time job, but I was following leads. Somebody sent me a photograph of a trying to think what play was it sorry guys, I'm not that proficient with my different types of airplanes, but it was a United States plane, and it was large enough to put a tank and a tank or two or a couple of Black Hawk helicopters. I think maybe one or possibly two. And I'm working with the United States, a retired United States Air Force colonel that has been trying to help me locate that plane. But the tail numbers in the photograph are just a little too blurry, but you can see the flags and the number and the colors. So we're pretty sure we know what base it's coming from, but we don't have the actual tail numbers. So we've been trying to get that individual who sent me the first to scan it better, because he took a photograph of him holding it and then sent it to me. But if he could scan it, then we'd probably get the tail numbers. So, we're really trying to we're really following up on that. I follow up on leads with Virginia daily, and I got to say, when I watched David Grush testify under oath, that was that was a milestone. That was something else, and you were there.
I was right there, and I just barely got in. I mean, I was the second to last person in the door. And then, just last night, this is funny. Last night, I'm looking at, there was footage of people going down the line and around the corner, and about 300 people down, I saw this very distinct kid, and I remember he was sitting 3 rows in front of me. Somehow he snuck in. All these people snuck in.
You got to be kidding.
No, he was like 300 people behind me. And he got in like the second row. He's in a lot of the news footage. So here's a very nice comment here. James, I'm a professor who has taught a research writing course based on UFOs and the paranormal. The student's first assignment is to watch The Phenomenon. Isn't that nice?
Oh, that's so nice.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's always it's so great. I mean, it was so great that the stars aligned and we were able to make The Phenomenon. That's exactly what it's supposed to be used for, as a tool. I mean, documenting all that history and all the archive material and stuff. It was really important to put those pieces of the puzzle together in a way that people that are unfamiliar with the topic could make sense of it all and have a much better foundation for understanding the complexity of the phenomenon.
So what is the most rewarding part of doing what you're doing? Is it things like that, or is it the connections you make when you're involved in doing these things?
I'm very curious, and I always like to kind of get to the bottom of things. And I'm coming to the realization that I'm probably not going to get to the bottom of it, but I am certainly learning more. And it's been very gratifying. One thing the phenomenon did for me is it's opened doors, and I have relationships with people behind the scenes now for the first time, more so than ever before. And that's and I just really want to know. I really want to know as much as I can learn about what's going on, and obviously I'll share as much of that, always with the general public. Um, I think I'm just very curious by nature, and I, I I just want to know. I want to
Yeah,
know. I feel like we all have a right to know, whether it's a little scary. I mean, the unknown's always a little scary, right?
yeah.
Or whatever it is. It doesn't change. Reality doesn't change. I mean, the facts coming forward doesn't change our reality. We're still,
I think that's a great answer, and there is so many things that we just can't even sense with our senses, and there may be things around us that we don't even know are existing. There's and that whole idea of another dimension being a possibility. I mean, there's so many things, and I like I think Jacques Vallée or someone says something along the lines, we may not even understand. If we knew, we may not even understand, which I think is very possible. So we have someone we're going to join us to say hi to you, at least.
James,
Mr. Dean, how are you, sir?
good brother, what's up?
Not much.
You got to, I don't know if your microphone's,
now.
I'm hearing squeak, squeak.
yeah, your microphone's not. Jeez, I thought you were a pro, man.
I know. Can you hear me now?
Well,
No.
we can hear you, but it's
You're
like
going to have to go into settings and see what's going on with your mic.
Little piggy or something, a cartoon.
All right, hold on here.
Yeah. So, James, do you have a working title? Have you thought of a working title? No, but your overall.
I mean, I have a working title, but I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna call it something, but it's not. I don't even want to announce it because it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the title.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, like, every time I've never had a title for any film I've ever done until the last minute, right? Like when I did, I Know What I Saw. I was like, "What's the title? What's the title?" I don't know, And I'm in the edit studio, and I kept hearing these witnesses going, they're out of frustration. I know what I saw. Okay,
Yeah.
stop telling me what I didn't see. And I thought, well, that has a nice ring to it. And
I've had a lot of people say, just in conversation on the street talking about, and they kind of bring up something like that. Well, I know what I saw, and it sure wasn't wasn't one of ours, that type of thing.
yeah,
They'll say that.
I still think that film holds up well, and it's a
It
great.
does.
I think it's a great title, and I love Out of the Blue. I love that title. I like a title that doesn't scream UFO. It has subtle. It's subtle.
Yeah.
Like Moment of Contact. I was in the field because I always want. When I talk to a witness that's got to experience something that I would love to experience, you know what I mean? Like whether it's standing under a craft or seeing a landed craft. I mean, imagine watching a craft land and the door open. It's just it's unfathomable. But when I was meeting the women and I'd known them, I was saying to them, like, gosh, when you locked eyes with this creature, and I know it was such a quick, like fleeting moment, but put me there. What did you feel? What did you see? Like, time slows down when you have those experiences. And I remember I said that during that moment of contact, when you locked eyes, and later I thought, moment of contact. That's I like that. Asked a couple people. Oh yeah, that's a winner. Looked it up, Googled it. The other day I Googled, I thought about something because I kept hearing people refer to the program, people that are working with UAP or whatever. And but then I Googled it and I was like, no. But it was close. It was a contender for a moment.
Yeah. Selma Siddiq from the Ariel.
Oh, I
school.
know her well. I love that.
Yeah,
one.
she's a lovely person. When she tells me she made she said to me that breaking eye contact with that being that was only 4 feet away from her was one of the hardest things she ever had to do in her life. Breaking away from it. She was curious about how her siblings were on the playground, and she had to force herself to look away from it. But I mean, she didn't get any message like some of the kids claim they did, but it's not that she remembers, and she doesn't really want to know. I've asked her if she wanted to, ever wanted to go into some type of regression, hypnotherapy to see if she could recall anything. I don't think she wants to.
She said,
Dean, let's try your audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's better.
All right. Good.
All right.
James, always great to see you, brother.
Likewise.
So what James didn't tell you was that before 407, there was another title of his film. It was Everything You Want to Know About UFOs, but Are Afraid to Ask.
And more.
And more.
And more.
And more.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not sure about that. And he came back with 407. I said, one word, phenom.
Do you mean 701, right?
Yes, 701, something like there were several number combinations. And then
he was
I said, just call it phenom, one word like Facebook. And he said, the phenomenon. And I said, if that works for you, fine.
So that's how that one happened.
Well, it was funny actually, because in the edit room we heard the phenomenon. I was working with a gentleman, Mark Barish, a brilliant writer, really great researcher, and we were bouncing names off each other for quite some time. And we were bombarded with every interview, people saying the phenomenon. It was even like Senator or former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid had used that word during the interview. And I hadn't thought of it, but Mark Barish, my partner at the time, writing partner, was like, hey, what do you think about the phenomenon? I was like, oh, dude, that one's been staring us in the face this whole time. Like that's, and we looked it up, of course we don't, people are like, oh yeah, I went to watch your movie and I got John Travolta. I was like, oh yeah, that's phenomenon. You gotta put a then phenomenon. It's like, what is it? The phenomenon.
Shameless plugging. Good Lord.
So is that what you do, James? You Google to see if you can find any names of past movies?
I do.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I do.
You kind of have to
check it out.
If you're making a film, you want to make sure that you're the first, the alien abduction film I did, there's tons of films called Alien Abduction.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of want to make sure that you're branding out there the first time, and that was a perfect name.
Yeah, and I love I love like titles. I was talking to Martin about this a minute when you so rudely left us with your bad microphone. But I like titles that don't scream UFO. They're subtle, and I love Out of the Blue. I Know What I Saw. The Phenomenon is brilliant. I love that title. And Moment of Contact, I think is appropriate for, that moment of contact, I think. And I hope that, we'll come up with something similar for this one.
I think it should be, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but that should be the title.
That's already taken, Martin. That's
already taken. Yeah. But that's how a lot of people will tell me about their UFO sightings. Well, I know you might think I'm a little crazy, but this,
yeah,
I don't think that one would flow too well, but yeah.
No.
I'm looking at, we have the entire movie mapped out on the wall right here.
Oh, if only we could see it.
I know. And I'm looking at it. I'm just thinking that the title's probably on one of these. We had these big white boards that I actually had a friend of mine come over who's got brilliant handwriting. I was like, can you do this, please? So
it's like we got storyboard or
X3. I'm sorry?
Like a storyboard type of thing?
Yeah, storyboard. Yeah, we got X1, X2, X3. I think the end result will be pretty damn close to what we're, things change a little here and there, but I think I have a pretty good, pretty powerful Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I think it's going to be a really good, I do. I don't think like people like yourselves are going to learn that much. maybe a little bit, but I think for the general public, once again, I'm trying to create, something that could, explain what's been going on since 2017 to a more mainstream audience, because it's pretty crazy.
I'm only going to watch it for the time lapse footage, to be honest, because I hear you're going to have incredible time lapse footage.
Oh, so pretty.
So that's where I get off. That's my
pretty.
UFOs,
So
yeah, that's nice. Give me some nice time lapse.
Yeah, no, really. I looked at it. I was like, this is the most beautiful I've ever seen. I mean,
when were you shooting?
I'm sorry.
When were you shooting in Washington? I shot there.
March. So March.
In March. That's not too bad. I was there in January shooting for my film, and it was insanely cold. I couldn't work the focus.
Oh my gosh.
It gets really, really cold in DC.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you just said there, James, is something that I have to be more sensitive of, because I every once in a while I'll read some of the comments I get on YouTube, things like that, and someone wrote something along the lines, well, hey, you're acting like everyone knows this story. I know, and this was actually the Ariel phenomenon, the Ariel school incident.
Of course.
And they're saying, you're acting like everyone knows this. I don't know this story. So, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm going to stop listening. And so we all have to be, I think, there's so many new people coming in looking at this topic because of all the publicity, that we really have to, kind of keep everyone happy if we can somehow by giving them a nutshell of what's going on. And James, I know you've got to go. You've graced us for longer than a half an hour, which it was hard to get out of you. And I know you said you got a lot to do, so I don't want to abuse that.
I'm leaving in a few days to go to Europe, and then when I get back from Europe, I'm only around for a couple of days, and then I got to go doing another shoot in DC, and I got shoots all across. I should be done shooting the movie by the end of September, and my goal is to have a rough cut by the end of the year or early 2024, and have the film come out in the summer of 2024. So that's my goal. And, inevitably excuse me, bug just flew right in my mouth.
Oh God.
He just got swallowed too. I saw him flying right here, and he went right in my mouth.
you know what you saw, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. I know what went in my mouth. That was, God.
Came out of the blue.
In my mouth.
Well, you converted an old cow barn. So what do you expect, right?
Where was I before I was rudely interrupted by a bug?
You were talking about how phenomenon basically took you 8 years.
Yeah, well,
and now you're banging them out. You're doing great. I remember us doing a hike and you saying, or me saying to you, 8 years. I don't know if that's sustainable. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it's like once a year or a year and a half, you're doing it. You're like in the flow, bringing it. Well, and the last one I thought was a great milestone in where you're going as a filmmaker, and I'm looking forward to this one as usual.
Oh, thank you guys. Well, I tell you, I thought that moment of contact was risky, and I had a number of people that were very concerned. Like, you just came from, where you pushed the envelope a bit with the phenomenon, and now you're dealing with a crash of live aliens walking through a town. Like, I had a lot of people like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I was like, "Well, yes, I am." But I knew it was a gamble, and but I think that I think it got discovered, I think 3 or 4 months after it came out. I mean, the film was competing with Avatar for a week in the charts, which is unheard of. Like, I mean, unheard of. I mean, the execs were calling me going, "We've never seen this. Like, this is, I mean, there's a demand for it, right? There's a thirst for this kind of stuff, and people want to know. So,
and a new generation.
And a new generation
into it, and I mean, it's tough because when you do a show like this, you might mention a case. There are so many cases, and that's the point, is you can't do a deep dive on each of them. If you want to see a deep dive, watch the documentaries that are out there. You can watch Randy's documentary, Aerial Phenomenon. You can see the phenomenon, but it is deep. It is a deep well. Yeah, and I mean, our job as filmmakers is to find those stories that we feel are credible, and be able to, spotlight those where they haven't been seen, maybe in a new light, or get the respect that they should have.
Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. Dean, it's a pleasure to see you. Martin, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being persistent to get me on.
Yes.
I do appreciate that. It was like, look,
Yeah.
you bastard.
Yeah. It worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, James, and have a safe trip over to Europe. And keep plugging on. We all love you out here.
Oh, thank you so much. Right back at you guys.
All right. Take care.
Brother.
Bye. All right, Dean. So,
I thought he
Dean,
would never leave. Jesus, the guy just goes on and on. It's like the interview is about him. I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. All right. So, what have you been up to, Dean?
I finished a new movie. That is a movie. It's called The Last Podcast, and it's a dark horror comedy. And I kid you not. And it's kind of based on my experiences hosting on your show, which was a horror comedy. No, which was fantastic and was very inspiring and was terrific. And to get in a sense of the audience and to get that immediacy back and forth and everything, I thought was just was terrific. So this is a real fun kind of twisted fable about this young podcaster trying to blow up, and he's a debunker. And he debunks the supernatural. And so he goes ahead and discovers this one case, and it makes him a believer. But the big, twist is he goes down a deep rabbit hole and does a Faustian bargain in order to continue pulling in subscribers. So I've seen this happen to some of my friends who go, I'm going to come into this arena and do great and everything, and it'll eat you alive. I mean, you're one of the OGs, Martin. And are still here. And so, so just finished that and been editing that. And then the other two documentaries that I've done, the 3-part series and the feature, I believe I'm going to be dropping trailers for both of those at Shag Harbor, which I will be attending.
Yeah, we'll meet up.
That's a secret. You're not supposed to know that.
We're both going up there. So we're both speakers there. That'll be fun to hang out again. It's been a little while, a couple of years, but So why don't you explain, if you would, what those ones, like you said, a series of 3, and one is basically a standalone. Is that the one that's on the Experiencers?
Yes. The one that kind of came first was, again, it was being on for the new listeners. I had made a film many years ago, 30 plus years ago. In fact, it's just been discovered by the Europeans, if you will.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. So I am going to the Sitges Film Festival, and Sitges Film Festival is in Spain, Barcelona, if you're local, Barcelona. And they are going to show, they have this program that's called 7 Chances, and they take 7 feature films that were these kind of cult underground films. Mine was the purported first found footage film, horror film made, sci-fi film ever made. And that originally was called UFO Abduction Incident. No, that was the sequel. UFO Case 77, which later on ended up becoming the McPherson tape. And which people can still see stream or Blu-ray, etc. Anyway, they someone found it. One of the local film critics in Spain saw it, and so I'm going there to present the film. And so anyway, I had made this film, and the backstory in the film was that someone had edited off the credits and injected it to the UFO community. So for 5 years, from 1989 until 84, it became this this big underground film where it ended up at the International UFO Congress Convention, where it was declared authentic by a lieutenant colonel with Air Force intelligence experience and a researcher. And so I got calls from Unsolved Mysteries, Hard Copy, and a Fox show called Encounters that wanted to know where this footage was found. And so I was very eager to debunk my own film. There you go. That's it.
Here's the tape. I love this story. This story is hilarious. They took away your credits, and then people are saying this really happened. I love that. They
injected it into the UFO. What had happened is a few mom and pop video stores got screeners, advanced screeners of the film. And then not a joke, not making this up, the distribution company burned to the ground. So I lost my main master, all my artwork, and I thought that was it. And then, a few years later, this copy shows up, and a big scuttlebutt about it. And then, so I go on this Fox show, I debunk the film, and I'm told people still believe it's real. Well, Dick Clark and Paramount loved the story so much they decided to do a remake. So I redid the film in 1998 called Alien Abduction, Incident Lake County. I think the original one is better. We had studio involvement, network involvement, exec involvement, and that is never a good recipe.
And you got fired.
Yeah. Everyone got fired because everyone at the network got fired. So when we came back, we were like, hey, we're done with the film. And they're like, hey, get lost. So I'm in the Directors Guild. They went after them, and I got my credit reinstalled and everything. So anyway, the anniversary of the film came up, and Alejandro Rojas and Karen Berard invited me to go out there, or I invited myself because I love those guys, and went out there and gave a kind of like a TED Talk, 75-minute TED Talk about the film and its journey and everything. And
yeah, I was there. That's when you and I met. Yes,
that's right. Yeah. We didn't swipe right. It was at the convention. Okay, all right. So I thought we didn't swipe. It wasn't Tinder. Okay. Anyway, so I went there and I thought, well, this will be interesting because I've always been kind of an armchair amateur, expert is stretching it in the UFO phenomenon. In fact, my original film was based on Whitley Strieber's book, Communion, the incidences, and also Close Encounters, etc. And so the Kelly Hopkinsville story as well was in there. So I started meeting all of these people, like Dr. Michael P. Masters and God, there's so many of them. People who are just professionals in their line of work who have had experiences. I'm talking about people who are Homeland Security supervisors, people who have actually done TED Talks, architects, chiropractors, who are all highly credible to me. And after doing 20 years of crime shows, I developed a pretty good, I thought, bullshit meter detector. And then I went and met with these people when I was doing that and doing Alien Con. And I thought, well, there's something here that I can't deny it because I've done 1 and 2 hour documentaries for Bravo, A&E, et cetera. I thought, well, this is a space I'm comfortable in. I should probably look into this and see if there's a story here. And then I hit on a line of looking at it from a new point of view that hadn't been done before. And that was enough. And that set me on a 5-year journey. And out of that came this 3-part series.
Hang on just 1 second. I just want to say goodbye to everyone over at KGRA Radio. And we'll be back next week with Dr. Keith Taylor. Great guy. Looking forward to talking to him. So continue on, Dean.
Sure. So then it was originally going to be just a feature film, 90 minutes in length. I was going to do 15 interviews. And then 60 interviews later, a 3-part series came out of that. And then I ended up going to with Yvonne Smith, going to her alien abduction support group, her experiencer support group, CEROS. And that devastated me. That knocked me on my ass, to put it lightly, because, I'm in a room with 15 people who all go around the room, introduce themselves and what they do, and they tell their stories. And again, not a blip on my BS meter. So at that point, when I would mention it to people, I would see the ridicule factor. And that really saddened me. And I decided, all right, even though I feel like I've really put everything in this 3-part series. I mean, when you see it, it is jam-packed, 3 continents. Interviewing, people from Leslie Kean to Dinah Pasulka, as well as the guy who invented Nick Bostrom, Dr. Nick Bostrom from Oxford, who invented or created the simulated reality hypothesis. And we look at that. I mean, I look at it from NASA all the way through. And so I thought, well, that's it. I've said everything I wanted to say. And then after this, I wanted to say something not from here, but from here, which is, I kind of use the analogy when people scoff at me when I talk about the experiencer's experience. I will tell them, craft came and they were taken and experiments were done, et cetera. And, I can see in their eyes a little chuckle, and I say, okay, let me change this for you for a second. What if I told you that I met this person that said, that a van pulled up and they were abducted and they were put inside and they were harassed and everything else, and then later on let out. What would your response be? Would it be, oh, really? It was a van. Was it white? Was it a black van? Was it duct tape? Was it rope inside? Really? You would never do that. But these people suffer from something that John Mack knew, which is you can't fake PTSD. And these people clearly are dealing with something heavy, and they've been dealing with it their whole lives. So that set me off on another year doing this new documentary, which may or may not come out before the other one. So anyway, that's the unpacking of those two projects.
Yeah. And is there anything on the horizon that we may be able to access? You said you're going to be putting out some possible trailers fairly soon, but I mean, the films themselves, I know they're in the hands of someone that's going to be getting them out there at this time, right?
Well, we are.
On the 3-part plus the standalone. That's what I'm talking about.
The standalone. I haven't made a deal yet with.
I see.
I'm talking to some people with regards to who's going to rip the film to go out. Mm-hmm. And right now I've got a consortium of 4 people who want the project. So that is exciting. The other one is in a transition of coming back, and we're going to see where that goes. But the thing that's interesting and challenging is you can make a feature doc and you can sell that and you can get it out there. When you do a 3-part series or a limited series, people that have done that before, when you do it on your own and you show up, it is nearly impossible to get Apple, to get Netflix, to get these other companies to jump on board, because when you go and you talk to their unscripted department, the unscripted series department, that means reality TV, documentary series department, their development, they don't do acquisitions, because no one is usually bold enough or dumb enough to go and make that. And I wanted to do it because I didn't want. I had interference with Paramount and Dick Clark on the other one. And so this one was very kind of special, and I wanted to incubate and have some time and discover it without having this go on. And so what came out of it is something that has been pulling in a lot of interest. But it's interesting because you do have those people who you have to say to them, no, watch it. Don't just look at it and say, well, we don't do acquisitions. Take a look at it and then, go from there. And so right now, all the animation is getting wrapped up and everything. So it's something that I figured it would come out this year and the other one the following year, but they may come out, both of them, this year. So I'm very excited about these things because it's I worked really hard to pull in people who don't normally work in this field and to bring them in and say, look, I need you to sit down and consider this.
Yeah. And I think that's going to happen more and more as we go along here. And what do I know you had your head deep into the editing of this this thing you were talking about, this movie, the latest thing that you're involved in. And so I would send you a text and you would like, well, I can't really look right now. I'm right into the editing and all that. So have you been paying attention to anything at all lately at least on the surface part of it? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I have been not as deeply as I would like to, or what I normally do, but enough that I've read several articles on what's going on. The stuff in Peru, I know you guys were talking about that. So far, it looks like there's a chance that, the guy who shot one of these, figures said it looked like it was wearing a helmet and it was wearing kind of suit. In fact, they described the helmet as being like in Spider-Man. The mask. Right. Yeah. Of that. That's pretty specific. So we need to get more information on that. Supposedly that's been going on for like on and off for a month. And that was the big thing culminating. The 7 or 8 feet tall thing. If you're going to harass people, minors, if you're doing that to keep the locals away, that seems like a pretty far reaching way to do that. However, there's a movie or a 4-part series on Hulu, I believe it is, called the Sasquatch, and it's about these drug dealers who faked a Bigfoot attack And these drug dealers were pretty insidious. They actually killed some local workers that were helping there as a demonstration, and they mutilated them, and it was this terrifying thing. But there has been a precedent of stuff like that being done beforehand. I'm not saying that that's what's going on. I'm not saying that that's what I'm endorsing. I'm just saying that I want to look into that some more.
I have two different contacts in Peru, and one, wrote back to me and said, I think it's just a hoax. Didn't really look into it deeply. And then another one who's really looking into it, he's saying that a lot of things just don't seem to make sense about it. And one of them being the jetpacks. He says, look, I know what the people are like in that area. They're very, very poor. And the miners are very poor unless they get really lucky and get, a really good amount of gold or whatever it is. I think it's gold. But he says, but he's never seen a jetpack in Peru in his life. And he's lived there all his life and been all around. And there's no jetpacks. I mean, and they didn't say anything about them making the jetpacks are very distinct in their noises they make and everything. It's just plain weird. Whatever it is, it's plain weird. And it may have, an answer that, it does belong to someone trying to harass these people, but it's just strange.
Yeah. Again, I'd love to have footage. I'd love to have the locals be videotaping these guys, filming them. Another case that's a recent case that I just talked to someone recently, and they said that they had communicated with someone in intelligence that said that there was some viability to the truth that the incident in Vegas happened.
In Vegas.
Yeah. In Vegas.
Yeah.
Which was the people seeing, these aliens in their backyard.
That's right. And that came out the same week as David Grush, came forward, basically.
Prior. It came out before the hearing. Yeah. And so it was both were kind of conflated, and it just seemed too fantastical. And so I might have to go back and do another look into that. It sounds really interesting. I want to talk to this person and get more information on that, which kind of annoys me, because if it does seem credible, it means that I got to dust off my camera and go back out there. And
well, there was a detective that's working on it. That's, a skeptic detective that's been putting some things out supposedly. And he's kind of puzzled by it from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some viability to some of the things, but the odds are, they came forward right after that thing was seen on a dash cam, I believe it was, and that was definitely like something like a meteor, I believe, something along those lines, a fireball or whatever it was. That had nothing to do with it, but it just happened to be that same night, I guess.
Well, the dash cams aren't that high resolution. And so you see something streaking across, and people always talk about these crafts being, some of them being like the sun. It was so bright, it comes out, they see the light fills their whole room. So that's intriguing. So I'm considering going and doing a little bit of a deep dive over there and looking at that. With regards to the hearing, it's a start. I'm not going to get into the scuttlebutt about the stuff that came out. There's always going to be critics and stuff, and if it's if there's some fire to this smoke, it'll come out.
Yeah,
it always does. So otherwise, I feel like we need to have more opportunities like that. The thing to me that's most upsetting, though, is the Republican rep, Tim, I can never remember his last name, who engineered the whole congressional hearing. Tim
Burchett.
Thank you, Burchett. I just want to say Birdwell. Burchett, the fact that he went with his kind of attaches and went to interview this whistleblower, and then they got blocked by this supposed general who said, we don't care, you don't have the right to come here, and defense intelligence trumps you, which is bullshit. And so that was disconcerting because all this has been set up, the apparatus has been set up so that these people can come forward. And then when they do, this happens. Well, that to me is kryptonite to getting the truth out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I asked him what happened. I wonder if I have that clip. Now, I asked him what happened. I don't have that clip readily available, but when he got bumped, basically, yeah. And he didn't want to talk about it. He just said, let's move on, and this is bigger than that, which it is true, and I'm glad he felt that way instead of just walking away, which he could have done. So yeah, no,
I mean, there's I don't know what you've heard. I haven't heard anything else, but supposedly there's going to be a Senate hearing possibly in October, grumblings of that. I just feel like if you're going to do that, you need to bring out the best cases. You need to substantiate it with things that move the narrative further along, not things that kind of reiterate what we've heard. Because, at the end of the day, people are clamoring for that material.
Yeah.
That exotic material. Well, the material itself doesn't have to be another component. It doesn't have to be metals that we don't have. If you look at it being from another dimension, or as Michael Masters, his theory that he's taken upon his mantle to carry, which is that they're from the future. That would make total sense. It would be Earth materials. So I think it's more of getting something that shows intelligent design that we haven't done, processing that we haven't done, and show me the goddamn bodies. I want to see the bodies.
Yeah. Oh, like Alejandro said when he was on the show right after David Grush came out, we need to see the receipts. It would be, I don't know. Here's the problem, I think, with that. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I think I'm hearing your email pop in or something. Maybe you can
let me
shut your email down. So the problem with that is, what are we ever going to get to know? Where is the line of what's classified and what's going to be available? There are so many ways they can put this umbrella over whatever it is to say we don't want, our other countries to know that we know this. Could be one of it. I'm just our adversaries or whatever. So we don't want to share this type of thing. So there's so many different ways they can block that type of stuff that, even if they have a firsthand witness come forward, what can he reveal other than talk, right?
Yeah, it's strange because I'm at heart, I'm a skeptic, not a debunker. By skeptic meaning that and skeptic isn't the right word. It's been twisted into, you're someone who is an agent of skepticism on something. I'm an analyst, I guess I would say. I want to look at the material and I want to be able to analyze it. And right now, the most compelling thing that has been the most compelling thing since the dawn of man is witness testimony. We still don't have the receipts. We still don't have the bodies. We don't have the craft. And so everything else is just kind of hearsay, and it's the person, the messenger, if you will, that's delivering it. And so that to me is still, the case hasn't changed. And we can look at things and say, well, like I know Mick West said, what's more realistic? That a bunch of kids saw at aerial school, saw a UFO land, a couple UFOs land, and some aliens get out and had this communication with, or a van pulled up and some guys took out some marionettes. And I'm like, well, I find them equally challenging. However, again, I go with testimony, and I go also with what James Fox did, which is uncover this woman who was on the yard, who witnessed this, who knows the difference between marionettes. Not to mention that kids, they know what marionettes look like. They know what puppets look like. So we need a better analogy than that. But until that happens, we're still kind of, based on our own experience. And I haven't seen anything. I did have a very, very strange dream, though. I don't think I told you this. 2 months ago, Don't worry, you weren't in it, Martin.
Thank God. Yeah.
And what the dream was, is I was in this like kind of, I was on this rooftop looking out, and I saw this craft coming, and I looked and I went, the thought in my head was, oh shit, that's a UFO. There it is. That's what it looks like. It's making a little bit of a weird sound, but there it is. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, God, that's so crazy. Look at that. And then it lands, and then I see whoever gets out. It gets a little jumbled in my dream, and I don't remember all the details, but it was like we were communicating, and it was more of me kind of watching, and it was like, okay, we're going to go here now, this and that. And I remember in my head thinking, oh, that's so strange. Look at them. And I was fascinated by the whole thing. And thinking that for the experiencers, I wonder if that was what it was like. If you're not terrified, you're riveted by how strange and surreal. And it made me feel like, they talk about high strangeness. I talk with Earl Grey about that all the time, how great the high strangeness is, and you can't include it. Like, don't include Bigfoot in my UFO, sandbox. But it is that strange and everything. And so when I woke up and everything, I was talking to Charlie Parrish, our friend, about it. And I said, yeah, I think that's the closest that I've gotten to kind of having an understanding of when you see something that's so absurd and shouldn't exist, what it does to you. Yeah. And so I guess, yeah, go ahead.
No, I know from my own experience, it was like, it didn't fit my reality. And, just a quick, recap for, I've told the story a number of times, but people ask me all the time, can you tell your sighting? It was kind of, it wasn't anything over exciting like some of the, encounters that I heard. But anyway, I was in a hot tub. I was not drinking. I always have to say that. And something caught my eye, and I looked up, and it was dusk, and it was a blue disc, like a glowing blue disc, went right over my head. And the first thing I thought of was, there's absolutely no sound. How could this thing be flying and moving? And I saw it stop too, and be no sound at all. No, no propulsion, but the sound was very eerie to me. And I was trying to like put in my mind right at that moment, like, what am I seeing? This isn't what I'm supposed to be seeing. It's a very strange feeling.
I mean, a buddy of mine who's a fellow documentary filmmaker, he never believed in this stuff. In fact, I think he was kind of put off that I had spent some time in it professionally, with the documentaries. And then he called me out of the blue and said, hey, can we talk? And I said, yeah. And he goes, so he said, it's taken me, a few weeks to even talk about this, but I was moving from one apartment to the other, and it was around 4 a.m. at night. And we were out on the deck kind of catching our breath because we had to get everything moved, and he's going out of the country, I think, or something. So anyway, he said he was looking on the deck and he sees this metallic craft moving along, and it had a blue glow around it.
Really?
And the blue glow became more and more intense, and then it was like a little fire, a little pulse. And he said, and then it was gone. And he said it's really effed him up. He said,
that's only like the third time. I just asked the guest last week about anyone ever mentioned the blue glow, because I've only heard it a couple of times, and now one more time.
Oh, so, really? Yeah. And he wanted to talk about it. And he wanted, he was trying to get in a way, psychological understand or help for this, because he said it's really jacked me up because I don't believe in this stuff. Those are my favorite cases. Yeah. It's like,
me too. I love when people don't believe in it, then it gets shown to them. I wish that would happen to Mick West. Well, this is the clip I was telling you about. I know people have seen this before on my channel, but here it is. Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys. Hey, brother.
Tim,
how are you?
Martin Willison, Podcast UFO.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Sure.
So,
you want me to put that on?
Sure, you can.
All right. You're not going to do me like Fox and give me one that's been in somebody else's ear?
So I just wanted to thank you personally for all you've been doing.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate all the coverage y'all been giving, especially you, brother. I know you've been there at the forefront of this thing a long time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it very much.
And I'm really sorry what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't
It's
know
just
if you can say
politics,
it.
dude. It's no big deal. Let's focus on
Yeah.
let's focus exactly, brother, on the bigger picture. It's bigger than me and all this other stuff. Let's get to the bottom of it. This is a cover up and we all know it.
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree. Thank you so much.
All right.
Really appreciate all your efforts.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, here, people will say, well, he's Republican, or they'll say the other person is Democrat, but this has nothing to do with politics, in my opinion. It's totally nonpartisan. And, I think he is doing an excellent job, pushing this thing. And, someone had to do it. I don't care who it is, but I mean, and there is some mockery, of some other congressmen saying, what a waste of time, what a stupid thing, and it's really sad to see that, because I thought everyone at the hearing was very respectful and they asked really good questions. And it wasn't a circus like some people are trying to make it out to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm on the fence about it not being political. And why I say that is that whatever, political nationality you are, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or, the green team, if you believe and you follow the phenomenon, you have to be aware that there's two messages that these beings have been saying since, at least I think the first time it came out was in the 60s, well before where we're at right now, which the two messages are, your technology isn't helping you, which has been attributed to, they're not spelling out for us, but which has been attributed to nuclear weapons and stuff. I happen to think it has to do with smartphones. I think that makes maybe more sense. But the other thing is you're destroying your planet.
Yeah.
And that has gone on and on and on. Now, we are going to be at that place if we don't kill ourselves. We're going to be at a place where we're going to be visiting other civilizations if they exist. And the chances, everyone says, that the fact is, numerology-wise or number-wise, statistic-wise, there are other planets that have life out there. So we're going to be checking them out. And if we see telltale signs that they're heading in the same direction, I would think that we would kind of say, hey, you might want to do this. So when I hear that it's not politicized, I'm kind of like, well, it is. Because that is our number one priority. We are not going to be relocating to another planet. I'm sorry to say, as much as we want to be able to terraform that stuff, that won't happen by the time what's coming, by all accounts, seems to be coming. I mean, within the next 5 years, anyone who has been doubting this, the statistics are, and just the experts and the research, not just the experts. I mean, talking to people who I know live in Texas and stuff, it's different, who live in, Florida. What's going on the coast and stuff, it's coming. So you can still be a Republican, and because I know that or a Democrat, doesn't matter. But even though the Democrats are known for being more climate conscious, that's how it's purported in the news. You can still believe that, but you've got to vote to have those be those issues. So I think with regards to political agendas, it is, critical, because all this doesn't matter, listening to podcasts, it doesn't matter if we can't survive, we can't go outside. And right now, I don't know how we're going to reverse this. And I'm not expecting the aliens to come and say, here's the technology and save us, because if that was going to happen, they already would have, I think dropped that off, or maybe, inspired it in someone's mind, whatever. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting depressed. I know it's the reality of it, but it is, it's depressing when you really think about it. And, I mean, I have been told something from, a filmmaker that was doing some research that was very bleak when he reached out to all the world scientists when he was doing some back end work on a series that was looking into extinction events. So, and it's they all had, very bleak things to say. about
Yeah,
us.
it's the scientists,
Yeah.
but the thing that's more terrifying is I'm like, okay, people can challenge scientists because we do that now. We can say, well, they're scientists. What does that mean? What's their agenda, et cetera? Talk to farmers. Talk to people in agriculture.
Yeah.
Who are suffering. The
Yeah.
cost of food is going to go up, et cetera. But we are going down a dark road here. But it is something that, again, just to kind of umbrella this, I think that is a message that has come forward. And I think I would want to listen, if you're not going to listen to, experts, I would want to listen to someone who's purported to be more advanced than us. I want to be around to be able to be Star Trek. I want to be able to go to other planets, or other dimensions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dean, I think we're going to call it a night on a sad note. No, it's always good to talk to you. And again, I know I've said this last time you were on, but when I was out for surgery last October, I want to thank you so much for covering for me when I could not, I could not do the show, and you did a wonderful job. And hope to see you behind a podcast mic on your own at some point. That would be great. So, and I'd be glad to help you with that. So thanks so much, Dean.
You got it. Great seeing you again.
All right. Yeah. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right. Okay, everyone. So next week, as I mentioned, Dr. Keith Taylor, it should be a wonderful show. And then the week after that, I'm going to be or that next weekend, I'll be over at the MUFON Symposium. And if you're going to be there, please reach out to me. It'd be really fun to hang out. And I just found out that I can't do like a show there or any type of recording there. So I'm going to have to try to figure that out, see if I can do something somewhere, rent a room or something for that in particular. All right. We'll see you next week, and keep your eyes to the sky.